Thanks, Paulie now provides opportunities to over 100 people in the tiny Eastern Cape settlement of Hamburg to support themselves and their families and members of this remarkable project, and are best known for the compelling and exquisite large-scale artworks they make collaboratively, which include embroidery and needlework. That's the Keiskamma art project founded by Karel Hofmeyer in 2000. Now, Professor and the South African Research Chair in South African Art and Visual Culture at the University of Johannesburg, Brenda Schmahmann, has conducted extensive and meticulous research which has given birth to the book titled The Keiskamma Art Project, Restoring Hope and Livelihoods. The professor joins me in studio to talk more about this project. Professor Schmahmann, thank you very much for joining me. Very quickly, inspiration behind an amazing, I flipped through this book, it is stunning.
Well, for me, it was an opportunity to give people exposure to what is really a very exciting project in the Eastern Cape. I mean, we know of the project, the Keiskamma Art Project, largely as a self-help initiative, but they also produce really magnificent works. For example, one of their most magnificent works is in the in Parliament. It's owned by Standard Bank, but it's on permanent loan to Parliament. And it's a reworking of the Bayeux tapestry, the sort of magnificent medieval work from the 11th century. And we have our own South African version, except rather than talking about the Norman conquest of England, as that one did, it talks about the frontier wars. So it really engages with South African history in incredibly compelling ways. So on the one hand, we've got a self-help project that has very noble intentions in it. It enables people to earn a living. But we've really got work also that's magnificent.
The other thing that I also love about this project is that, you know, with respect to South Africans, we do live in silos. And we are kind of focused on what's happening within our immediate communities and environments. And this really also kind of shines the spotlight on work that's happening in the Eastern Cape.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I got into this project because I used to work in the Eastern Cape for some time, and I kind of lived through the growth of this project. Because the Keiskamma Art Project started in 2000, and I moved to the Eastern Cape in 2002, and I was at their very first exhibition there, which was at the National Arts Festival in 2002.
When did this dialogue between you and Karel Hofmeyer, who's the founder of the project, when did that start and say, well, we need to document this properly?
I started working on the project of my own volition and producing research on them quite early, probably around 2007 or so, 6, 7. And then eventually the idea was to develop further into a book. It seemed to warrant being consolidated into a book rather than sort of just having discrete academic articles, but actually to do something and to look at the project completely in that form.
And the focus of your research back then was?
I've always had a long-standing interest in women's needlework projects. It's just been one of my interests, and I've looked at other ones in South Africa as well. So when this project grew, it was something that was of immediate interest to me. I'm interested more generally also in women's making practices, art by women in South Africa as well.
Why the focus, Prof, on restoring hope and livelihoods?
The idea of restoration is something that came up in the very first project. It came up with the idea of the project being sort of a restoration of what had been removed in the 19th century from as a result of the frontier wars, a series of loss of livelihoods. The cattle is a central motif within the project, and it symbolizes, in a sense, livelihood. So it was embedded within what one would call the iconography, the subject matter of the project. Yeah.
Very quickly, one of the other things that for anybody who hasn't flipped through it, one of the things is it's a very, very visually strong book that really focused on making sure that those images really speak and resonate.
Yeah, it's actually beautifully designed. I think one of the mistakes sometimes people assume is that if a book is going to have well-researched and scholarly content. It's going to have little grim images, which is not true. You need beautiful images, clear images, well laid out images to do justice to the works that you're talking about. And this book has been beautifully designed by Robert Hofmeyer. Meticulously overseen the production
Visually
of
very
it,
stunning.
everything by the publisher Robert Stewart Clark of Print Matters.
And it's available everywhere.
It's available everywhere in all good bookstores. It will be certainly after the launch, which is happening this week. But for people who want to get hold of it immediately, they can go to the Print Matters website, which is www.printmatters.co.za, or they could go to the Keiskamma Art Project's website, which is www.keiskamma.com, and they could get it there.
For sure.
Online.
Prof, thank you very much. We've run out of time. It is a visually stunning book. That's Professor and the South African Research Chair in the South African Art and Visual Culture at the University of Johannesburg, Prof. Brenda Schmahmann, speaking to us about her latest book titled The Keiskamma Art Project, Restoring Hope and Livelihoods. Go and get the book. You can pre-order it. All you have to do is Google the details and find out where you can get your hands on a copy. I guarantee it's visually amazing. We're taking a break. Don't go anywhere.